Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and you join me today in a diminutive, fun, tiny, very cute, sporty K car. Yes, it's a Daihatsu Copen. Now, if you like reviews of interesting and unusual cars, then please do hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. Now, on with the review of this car, which is currently for sale at Stone Cold Classics at Rootham in Kent. So hit the link in the description to find out more about this one. Hello, welcome to Furious Driving, and if you haven't had your daily dose of extreme cuteness, you're in the right place, because today we are looking at this, a 2003 Daihatsu Copen. Isn't it adorable? Now, as you can probably tell, the Copen is on the small side. Well, that's because it's a K car, the tiny, diminutive Japanese format that has to fit under certain size, weight, and engine size and output restrictions. This, the Mark 1 or L880 Copen, first appeared in 1999 as a show car called the Copen Concept, and it hinted very strongly at what was about to be released in 2002 as the actual Copen, and it was built until 2012. Now, looking at the truncated front and back and the extreme curves, you can see that the designers took their inspiration from the new then Audi TT, which is understandable, and the Nissan Figaro, which I guess was popular in Japan back at the time. It's still quite popular all over the world now, it's just a bit of an acquired taste. But you can see these extreme curves going down to the front, making it all very cute, attractive, and of course fitting lots into this quite actually squarish shape behind the curves. Now, one of those extreme curves is of course the bonnet, which is surprisingly, well, not surprisingly really, quite small. Let's find the stick and have a look under here. So what we have here is a 660cc, well technically it's a 659cc, 4-cylinder twin-scroll turbocharged engine, which you might know as the JBDET. It makes a whopping 68 horsepower. I say whopping, it's enough for a car of this size. But what it lacks in size and output, it makes up for in extreme reviness. It's virtually a motorbike engine going up to 8,500 RPM. But with the power it makes and the size and weight of the car, it will actually accelerate to 0 to 60 in about 11.5 seconds, and it'll get you a fairly respectable 44 mpg. Now, later on, the pureness of the K car characteristics were diluted somewhat with the addition of a 1.3 litre non-turbo that's normally aspirated 4-cylinder. This made a little bit more power at 86 bhp, and so a tiny bit quicker than 0 to 60, 9.5 seconds. Some people say that's the one to go for because it's got more power, but this has more of the actual character of the car with the smaller 660 under the bonnet. Now, it might not be a very big engine, but it is also well and truly crammed in here in what is basically quite a small engine bay. Look at the size of the radiator here, it's so cute. Now, something that does help make the car look to be perfectly proportioned, just like a very small sports car rather than a doll's house mobile, is the fact that everything is perfectly in proportion. It's all downsized in correlation to itself. One thing that stands out though is the fact it's got 15-inch wheels. A lot of cars at this point may well have gone for 13s or 14s at the biggest, but no, 15s actually look like monster 22-inch spinning rims on this thing. Right, so let's take a look around the cabin. Now, first of all, before we climb in, check out the door and the colour scheme. Red door cards, red leather. Red is an option on this car, and this car's basically got every option ticked on it. Yeah, so the red really stands out. Actually, it's leather door cards as well. That's quite a surprise. We've got the elephant hide black plastic around the edge, but what feels like leather in the centre. Fairly ordinary plastic door handles with the giant jumbo plastic locks, which the Japanese seem to love for some reason. Big speakers in the door. Quite an interesting door grab handle to pull the door shut with a little chrome insert to make it look a bit interesting. And your door cards are unusual and interesting as well, because they are this mesh netting, but it's not stretchy, it's a hard metal rod across the top. That's quite fun. You will notice as you climb in, everything about this car feels very, very small and light, and the doors themselves are quite thin as well. When you step in, you step over quite a big sill, which has got this little nice Copen logo on the tread plate. And as you climb in, you'll notice it is quite low. Not awkwardly low, it's comfortable, it really is very comfortable actually. Now, looking around the cabin, we've got all the good stuff in play. We've got this lovely Momo leather steering wheel here. Looks and feels amazing. It's got the hex head bolts on the front, adding a bit of sportiness to it. It's got the twin horn buttons on either side. Just do a horn test. Wow, properly parpy. Exciting times for a little car. Now let's go top down from the dashboard. Now, first of all, we have got what looks like it's going to be a big T-shelf, but no, really, total T-shelf fail here. This is very sad times indeed. Nowhere for the cup at all, apart from down here an elbow-based T-shelf area. So only small items, espressos only, may go in this car. Ironically, as its biggest rival was probably the cappuccino. What we have got is a passenger airbag on the left-hand side and a quartet of these little round eyeball air vent nozzles, which all look very cool indeed. Moving across, we've got our triple dial setup for our instrument binnacle. In the centre, our speedometer going up to 140 mph. Probably won't do that. The graphics and the little silver bezels make it look like an expensive chronograph watch. It's quite exciting. On the left we can see our rev counter, which, as I say, goes up to 8,000. I believe 8.5 is at the actual red line, 8,000 for safety on the dial. Then we've got a pair of heat and fuel gauge on the right hand side, and they're all wrapped in these semi-individual surrounds, making it feel very Alfa Romeo-ish, with this little cowl on top as well. Now, surrounding that area, we've got various buttons here for front and rear fogs, heated rear window, quite a sizable cubby down there for bits and pieces, wipers on the right and indicators on the left, which is maybe a bit unusual for a Japanese car of this era, and mirrors down here as well. Moving back to the centre, it is very plasticky, lots of black plastic, slightly soft touch on the where it's textured, not at all soft touch where it's plain. We've got the original Clarion radio, another small cubby, which is, I guess, for, I'm going to say business cards and sweets, but Japan 2000, probably cigarettes. Little digital clock there, and just our 3 dials to control our heating and ventilation, which does have air conditioning as well. Got a big old ashtray, never been used in this car, and our 12-volt socket just here. Now, interestingly, we have got the layout for our gearing is down here, printed into the center console, because the gear shift itself has got this lovely chrome ball for a gear knob. This is a 5-speed manual. There was an option for a 4-speed auto, but in this kind of car, really, you want to be going manual. It's more fun that way. Now, other fun stuff here in the interior. The leather seats are perforated, and they are so bright, it's amazing. As I said, this car's only got 3,000 miles on it, so it's basically like new. You've got an extra little cubby hole back here for, well, maybe fit one cup in there perhaps. And you've got this little Daihatsu branded glass screen to keep you free of wind in the hair. Well, not too much wind in the hair anyway. You've got the chrome rollover hoops, and there's even one other option which this car came with, but no other UK ones did. Now, you might be thinking this area here looks a little bit unfinished and just unresolved when you see it just open to the elements, basically, with the roof down. Now, in Japan, and in the brochure which used Japanese cars for the photography, there was a tonneau cover which came with the car. The owner of this car, when they first bought it back in 2003, received the car, and their first question was, well, where's my tonneau? And the dealer said, well, we don't do one, we don't import them at all. And she had a few words with the dealer there, and they supplied her with a tonneau. So this comes with the only tonneau cover in the UK. I'm not going to try and break it and fit it, because I'm sure I'd do it wrong. Then we get into a few of the more fun buttons. Now, as I mentioned, this car has got optional leather seats, which in this case are even heated. This car is properly loaded. And then we have a button here for the active roof system, because this is a folding hardtop. Daihatsu made a big deal about this. Let's go and take a look at how that works. Before I push that button though, I will just show you, to open the boot, you have to open this armrest, find the hidden button in here, and then the boot pops open. Now, with the roof down though, you're not exactly bestowed with much in the way of load space. It's basically this small area just here, that's your lot. One quite fun thing though is you don't slam the boot, you just click it and it draws itself shut mechanically. Now, folding hardtops were very much the thing when this car was new. So you pull the switch here in the centre, or push it to go up, I should say. Keep your finger on the button and your foot on the clutch, I believe. And 25 seconds later, you've got a folding hardtop. Very much all the rage back in the late 90s, early noughties. You're done, and then you've just got 2 clips up here at the front to do. That was almost enough time to tell you everything I needed to tell you. The other thing being that during the middle of the production run, there was a removable hardtop version available as well as the folding hardtop. This meant it was not a true convertible, it's more of a roadster, but it did save 30 kilos and meant you always had a bigger boot. Let's have a look at the boot with the roof up. there with the roof up, you do actually have quite a sizable boot. It goes back a long way. You've got this stretchy covered thing, so you can put stuff underneath here. And you've got a sign here embroidered into the carpet saying, if you want stuff to be in the boot when the roof goes down, it's got to be underneath here and not sticking through. That's the limit of what you can carry, which is basically some sheets of A4. Roof up, quite convenient, quite handy, quite useful. Roof down, less so. And to go back up again, you make sure your flips are flipped on the front, pull the switch, and everything goes back again. And you do have to keep your finger on the switch all the time, and suddenly I'm in the open air once more. And this time I won't forget to keep pulling the switch. And it's beeped to say it's done. Excellent. Now I can go. Right, so I'll put the windows up to beat the traffic noise. The switch is down here by the handbrake, I should have mentioned. This feels like a brand new car. So just over 3,000 miles on the thing. It's just mental to be driving a car this old that's also this fresh. And everything just feels brand new. It's astonishing. Now, of course, it is front-wheel drive. That's kind of a given on a platform this small and this compact. You have to have everything in front of the bulkhead to make the packaging work. But let's talk for a moment about the engine. It is obviously very, very tiny, but it's free revving and it wants to be revving. If you try and change up to under 3,000 RPM, really it just kind of bogs a little bit. So you have to really keep it buzzing a touch, which is kind of fun. And when the thing came out, its chief rival would have been the Suzuki Cappuccino, which was a very similar concept. Tiny K-car, sports car, good looking. It's just a shame they didn't give this a coffee or drinks related name as well, because then they could have called it the Battle of the Baristas or something, but obviously we've been denied that treat. Now, although the car isn't massively rapid on the street, it does feel quite brisk as you move around because the car is so small, and also everything about it is very taut and hunkered. It just feels like you're going quite rapidly, even though you're really not moving particularly fast at all. I mean, we're not now. Now, the cabin is understandably snug because the car is tiny. It can be nothing else, however hard it wanted to be, but that doesn't mean you're lacking in space. It's a little tight on elbow room. Certainly my elbows are snug on the door side, obviously less so on the passenger side where I haven't got a passenger today. And with the roof up, it's quite tight on the top of your bonds. I'm 5'11", so I am on the tall side of who could fit into this car in all probability. But everything is laid out really well. You're sitting very low in the car, and so your legs are fairly straight out in front of you. The pedals have got a nice weight to them. Please get on your side, Porsche. The clutch is very light, and you've got a nice little mechanical action. It's a little grippy through some of the ratios, but it's not even worn in properly yet. The brakes are pretty powerful. They're discs at the front and drums at the back. Looking through them, looking through the spokes of the wheel, they look like brand new. It's amazing. Of course, what you are lacking a little is the accelerator response, because it's not got a huge amount of torque, so you have to work the gearbox to get the best out of the car. Keep it on the boil, so to speak. And that 1.3 litre, that came about because of exports. The 660cc, or well, 659 if we're honest, is a brilliantly fun little K motor. However, it didn't meet emissions in some export markets. Now, they had been exporting a right-hand drive only version to Europe. Germany in particular was struggling with the emissions from the 660, so they developed the 1.3 and a left-hand drive design so they could sell a left-hand drive 1.3 to, well, mainland Europe, and that's where that came from. And the car ran until 2012, but it was only imported to the UK until 2011. The reason being that as it was getting older in terms of model years, the sales were dropping off, and the increasingly strong yen was making it more expensive and less economical to export all the way around the world. So ultimately, they stopped a year ahead of the end of production. In Japan itself, it sold on for another year, finally finishing with the 10th anniversary model, where they made 500 of these, and they were loaded with every luxury you can think of. They got the full leather heated seats and lots of other toys, which were generally only optional extras the rest of the time. Now, this is a really fun car to be in and to look at and just explore. There's so many nice little design touches around it. The twin exhausts on the back hint at far more power than it actually has. The triple air vents on top of the scuttle look quite purposeful and sporty as well. It's got loads of little touches like that. Just the general shape and demeanour make it look like it's going to be a fast and powerful car. And it may not be powerful, but it is relatively quick. And although it is tiny, it doesn't feel like you're in a really small car when you're out on a country lane. It feels like you're in a fun, sporty little car. The gearing and the engine and everything like that is all aimed really at either city driving or country roads. It's not going to be at its finest on a motorway. 60 miles an hour is 3,500 RPM, which isn't very far around the rev range, but it's loud enough to be a bit boomy and wouldn't be a lot of fun on a very long drive. That said though, it's not the kind of car you want for that kind of adventure. It's ice creams at the seaside. This is the kind of car you'd be replacing an Austin 7 with in the garage in terms of usability for the weekend. That's today, not back when it was new, obviously. I remember a co-worker having one of these back when they were brand new. And yeah, he lived in London and only really drove around London occasionally. I said, trip to the seaside, that was basically it. He loved it. It's not a car to take seriously, but it is a car to seriously enjoy. Is that my Top Gear audition taken care of now? And it always feels like you're going quickly, just doing 30 miles an hour and nipping around these little bends. It feels like you're racing along. But obviously you're not, you're doing 30. It has a sense of urgency all the time from that turbocharged, screaming engine that just makes it always feel like you're going faster than you are. It just makes it fun and exciting. It's a car to put a smile on your face. You're always going to go out feeling a bit down, you come back feeling happy. Turn that frown upside down kind of a car. Now, a couple of people have questioned whether you should drive a car with this kind of low mileage, and it's been serviced every year regardless of the fact it never went anywhere. And I would say, well, maybe someone will buy it and collect it and put it into a collection where it never moves, but that would be a shame. And values of these things are on the up. So you could drive it sparingly, have it as a summer fun car, and you might knock a couple of pounds off the value for driving it a small amount, but the fact that these are going to go up in value anyway, it would negate that. You'd, as one went down, the other would go up, and you'd drive it and enjoy it for a couple of years and not lose a penny. What a great way of enjoying motoring. I wish I could do that sometimes. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little look around this really fun little mini sports car. If you've enjoyed this, please as always like and subscribe, you know the drill, and join me again next time driving something completely different.